Ready for another Narc takedown? Anyway, last time I was speaking about generational patterns. And why is that important to know? Well, it's because this way you'll know why you keep running into these people. If you're alone at your, in your circle or maybe in your family, you're going to find out that there's a long list of narcissists that taught you how to accept them as normal, um, and how it is that you keep running into the same type of people. It's because of these patterns. That was on the last episode. Uh, Today, I'm gonna be talking about the love bombing. Love bombing is something that they do. I think they go to school, to learn these things. No, not really. They don't go to school, but or maybe it just shows you know how much of a lack of imagination they have, because they literally all do the same thing. They all do the same thing, and they all behave in the same manner. They all employ the same tactics. And so, if you're listening to that term of love bombing, you're probably going, "Oh, yes, 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 I've been through that." Again, if you don't know that you're going through it and you're receiving love bombing, watch out, because it's only gonna get bad after they stop it, because that's what they do. They love bomb you so they can lure you, and once they have you in their grasp, in their web, stuck, that stops, because that will begin the process of making you feel crazy, the gaslighting, because you start to second guess yourself. You start to question yourself. Well, what did I do? I mean, he was being Mr. Wonderful, and all of a sudden, he's not anymore. Did I do something wrong? And then all of these self, you know, this dialogue that you have in the inside of your head, can drive you crazy. But most of the problem with that is the fact that it plays on your self-esteem, on your self-worth, on your self-value. The value that you have for yourself, you just question it because you start to blame yourself. For instance, in my case, my dad was wonderful when he first came back from the United States. And as I remember him before he left, he was a mean guy because he would drink and, get start, hitting my mom. And it was scary to see when you see a grown man, yell and get physical, and, you hear the punches, you hear the sound of skin hitting skin, you hear your mom cry, and it's scary for a little kid, you know. Um, so when he left for the United States, it was kind of like a relief too. But I missed it. I missed him, And then so when he came back, he brought us toys and stuff like that, and it was wonderful. But it didn't take long. It took probably 2 weeks, and then he went right back to being a horrible monster. Somebody that you'd had to always tiptoe around. You didn't want to say the wrong thing because he was just in his mind. He would just hear it wrong, and all of a sudden you're in trouble. All of a sudden, picture this. You're having a nice dinner, and we're all laughing and having a good time and everything, enjoying each other's company. And then all of a sudden, my mom says something, and then my father just stops and goes, "What did you say?" Just puts a whole dark veil over everything, and it's just like the vibe just drops, and that like it feels like you're sinking, you know, like you're dropping, like you just dropped from a big building, and that feeling, that's how it felt. Me as a kid, it was just scary to watch somebody just flip like that, So, like I mentioned before, until this date, I am still looking for stability because I couldn't find that with a father like that. And my grandmother was the same way. And then I found out also that my ex turned out the same way. You see those generational patterns. But it all started with love bombing, being absolutely wonderful and everything. In my case, my ex, lured me with sex. I was a very naive, very innocent Catholic boy that had never done anything like that. And then when she presented me with one thing, I was like, oh my God, just she blew my mind, right? And then from then on, I just thought, I think this one is the one. I was 18 years old. How could I know that this one is the one? Um, Besides, I hadn't had, that many experiences, sexual experiences prior to her. And so, but I was sure that she was the one because it was one after another. Well, let's do it here. Let's do it there. Let's do it in the car. Let's do it in the beach. Let's do it at a hotel room. Oh, you don't have a condom? That's okay. We'll just go without it. And, let's do it at my friend's house. It was just all this extravagant activities. She was always wonderful, would cook for me. That's another thing about narcissist women I've noticed, that they cook for you or they give you food. And once they give you food, as they're giving you food, they can fill you with compliments. And it does something to your brain. I think it disarms you. And then all of a sudden you think that this person is wonderful. You know, I mentioned, so anyway, once I moved in with her, all that stopped. Just shut it off. And I was questioning myself. I was like, did I do something wrong? And I would ask her, well, what's, oh, I just don't feel like it. But you were we did this. Yeah, but just, and she would throw a guilt trip on me. Like, just don't, like I was forcing her. So I'm like, no, I don't want to force you. Like, again, because I had seen how my father behaved with my mom. I wasn't about to touch that subject or push the subject or, force her into anything. So, I mean, she found the perfect target for her to get her supply, basically, because it makes them feel wonderful when they're giving you all this great stuff and you turn around and say, oh, you're wonderful. That's what they always want to hear, that they're amazing, that they're beautiful, they're wonderful, they're, the perfect person. Because essentially once they have you in their web stuck, and they shut off the love bombing, they're going out into the world and doing the same thing with other people so they can keep hearing that wonderful thing. It's like, oh, you're wonderful, you're awesome. Because essentially what they're doing is they're talking crap about you. So you got to listen to this. This horrible person that I live with, my husband or my boyfriend or my wife or my, they trashing you outdoors so they could appear wonderful for other people. The moment they step out of the house, they start being Mr. or Mrs. Wonderful, you know, they, to everybody else. But when they come back, again, like I felt with my father when he would come back home, I was feeling like that when my ex would come home. It's like, oh, like the sense of instability, like I don't know when she's gonna flip out. Because just like with my father, it was the same way. I don't know when he's gonna flip and all of a sudden find something offensive, or if I'll be in trouble, and they do that to have you shaking in your boots, again, because they get a reward out of that. They feel amazed because they like, I'm in control. I control. Being in control is all they care about. Control about their image, control about you know you and the situation that they have going with you. So if you remember how I brought up the Tina Turner, that film, that's her life story, or not. Well, you could say that it was a life story to that point. Um, when Ike, is love bombing her, is doing the same thing, being Mr. Wonderful, even though he was married with kids, was buying her, stuff. I think he bought her a car, bought her clothes. It was just trying to get her to think that he was just wonderful. You know, I was watching recently Ted Lasso, and one of the characters meets this girl. Keely meets this girl, who has a lot of money, and then this girl is just buying Keely a whole bunch of gifts, really extravagant gifts, like first edition books, that are really expensive because they're so old, a ring, and one time, Keely walks into her own office and flips out because it's like, oh my God, this is kind of creepy, because she walks in and her whole office is just decked out, just full of flowers, like an insane amount, a sickening amount. Like there was just a scary, creepy amount. So she goes and tells, she's talking to her friend, and her friend goes, "Oh, sounds a lot to me like love bombing. Watch out." So what do you mean love bombing? Yeah, when I was married to Rupert, that was her ex-husband, the friend's ex-husband. It's like, yeah, he bought me a Jaguar on our second date, and then took me to Paris, where he asked me to marry him. Well, obviously there was a ring involved as well, but it was just like boom, 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 all this huge gifts, the huge amounts of attention, So again, so you can turn around and say, you're wonderful, because they just love that stuff. So those are some of the examples, that I know of. But again, as I'm giving you these examples, you're probably going, yeah. Because again, it's like, listen, if you've gone through it, you're probably thinking, you're feeling like you're listening to your own story. And if you're currently going through it, still, it's going to sound familiar to you. And if you're going through the love bombing phase, leave that piece of crap, because it ain't going to get better, because you deserve better. And if you have gone through it and you're out of it, congratulations. You left a monster. Celebrate. Okay? But either way, either of the three categories I gave you, by you listening to it, you know that I'm telling you the truth. Because like I said, these people, these narcissists, that's what they do. That's what they do. They do the same thing over and over again. They use the same tactics. It's really quite remarkable. I say remarkable because for all of them to just behave in the same way and employ the same tactics, there's really got to be more money put and more attention put into the study of these monsters, these horrible animals, and I hate to say animals because I love animals, but you know what I mean. These are bestial, horrendous scum that should not, this is what I used to tell my ex, that they should not be around people. They should not be around children. They should not be around anybody. And that the biggest punishment should be to end up alone with nobody, because people will eventually find out how dirty and rotten they are, that they decide to turn their backs on them. I think that is one of the biggest punishments to a narcissist, for them to be found out and for people to turn their backs on them. And if you are facing the same situation, that is the best thing you can do to a narcissist, for you to not only, for you to turn your back and never pay attention to these people, because it's their favorite drug. It's attention. It's attention. All right. So again, if you have gone through it and you're out of it, good for you. If you're currently going through it, leave the son of a bitch, or leave that piece of crap. You deserve better, because it ain't gonna get any better with this person. And if you have gone through it, you know that I'm telling you the truth. You know that you know how it works, because it sounds like you're listening to your own story. That's how we know that we're dealing with that type. Narcissists are I guess they're not that very smart because again, they use the same tactics that now we're all becoming savvy of, and the more you share this video and this type of content, the more people are going to find out, and the more maybe we can diminish those numbers, so people can be aware when this sort of people shows up, so they can finally lose that power that they crave so much, that dominion that they think they have over people. You know, don't you don't you wish that for them? For people to find out who they really are, and then just people just flip on them, like forget it. We know your type, and they just walk away from them, and they are left there all by themselves, all alone, feeling sorry for themselves. I wonder if they're just gonna like dry up like a prune, because they're not getting their favorite drug anymore. Be good to find out, right? Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Take it easy, lemon squeezy.